Well, good day and welcome to you. It is March the 25th. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. My name is Gary Willing, and as always, I want to welcome you to Search for Signs. I'm glad you're here. I do always encourage people to start to look at this information and learn more about it, investigate it for yourself. Whatever words you want to use, doesn't matter, in order to see if there's any truth to it for yourself. Truth be told, I have absolutely no fear about anybody starting to dig up and look at and see if what I'm saying is true. So go crazy. Look at it, check out some of the links that I provided, perhaps do your own investigation in a different way. But I do think it's important for you to start to look at it if you want to, if you're interested. That's all. So I want to talk about something that I've been thinking about for a few weeks now. Now, I didn't just start thinking about it, but I've been thinking about it a lot over the last few weeks in reference to not only myself personally, not only in reference to this information that we talk about Maitreya coming back along with this group of masters and so forth, but what we're seeing in the world today in every country without exception, but focused as under the microscope of looking at the conflict with Ukraine and Russia but even what's going on here in the United States and so forth. And I'm going to get a little campy. Okay, so I'm going to give you my hypothesis about this thesis first, and then we'll talk about it, okay? But it's going to come in a kind of a cheesy, campy, even a daddy kind of package. And I'm going to quote a song from the 70s by Burt Bacharach. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. I know it. Even when I heard that song, it always kind of made my skin crawl a little bit like, oh, that is cheesy. But it's true. What the world needs now is love. Now, where this information, I believe, fits in with that statement, the world needs love, is to look at it that love is possible to be manifested on this planet, okay? Now, the reason why I've been thinking about it is there was a person who disagreed with what I had to say based on their own religious beliefs, considered Maitreya to be the abomination of all they considered to be good and true, and was the manifestation of nothing but evil because he was talking about peace. And that there was nothing written in the Bible that peace will ever be established on the planet, so there's no truth to it. Now, I don't agree with that statement, obviously, right? But I did offer up as a suggestion, I guess, to look at, is to investigate the Marshall Plan. And I said, I don't think there's any truth to what you're saying because of what happened 75 years-ish or so ago, that peace was established on this planet. It wasn't perfect. It was only amongst a few nations, but it was established, and it was established just how Maitreya says that peace should be established now, and it started with the principle of sharing. The Marshall Plan was not a perfect example of what I think the principle of sharing will eventually be, but it was a start. It didn't bring about perfect peace the way that the principle of sharing, the way the masters are suggesting it will bring. But it was a start. And it's an example of the fact that it can bring about peace. Now, of course, I offered that up to this person as a reply to their comment. Investigate it. Look and see if what I'm saying is true. I never heard anything back. I wasn't expecting anything back. I don't even know if they even read my comment. But for anybody who has a tad bit more of an open mind and wants to know more about it, investigate, look at the Marshall Plan. That's what we're talking about on this channel. Look at the list of nations that participated in the Marshall Plan and start to go back through your history over the past few centuries. Have some of those nations been at war with one another? Like Germany, France, England, the United States, Spain, Portugal, Italy. Have those nations been at war with one another? Well, the answer would be yes, right? You could look at it historically. Have any of those nations attacked another nation since the Marshall Plan was instituted? The answer would be no. Now, I'm not saying it's always going to be like that, but as of right now, none of those nations have attacked one another. So that's why I offer it up as it does create peace, the principle of sharing. Now, the big fear that people have about Maitreya, I'm going to talk about this in just for briefly because I don't think this is as important as what we're about to talk about, but is that Maitreya is going to come and claim that he and he alone will bring about peace. That is nowhere near the truth. He's going to say that humanity has within it the capacity to create peace, to bring about love manifested on this planet, which is really what peace is. Now, the ideal that we have about manifested peace is an ideal that I think that we all kind of share a common vision to some degree. There would be a centralized theme amongst, if you said, do you want peace in the world? Most people would say yes. Now, Maitreya says, within the hearts of every single person is the longing desire for peace. But if you ask somebody intellectually, they would say, yeah, I want peace. I don't think it's possible, but yeah, I want peace or whatever. And if you said, what would that look like? Most people would say something like, well, no war, no conflict, right? Or something like that. And then other people might say, they might even bring it down to a local level. No more crime, no more disharmony amongst people, that kind of thing. People understand one another. They're perhaps pleasant with one another or whatever. They're not violent toward one another. That would be manifested peace or manifested love on this planet. Well, can that happen in real time on this planet? Well, it has, as an example. I always give it as an example. Now, why am I always talking about the Marshall Plan? Because it is the most important thing that any one of us should be looking at, is helping to create peace in our own way, but to talk about and see the need for the principle of sharing. That's the most important thing that we can do. Because if you look at all the problems that are facing humanity from internationally all the way down locally, it all stems from a lack of love. So it's the one thing I love about this information, about the masters coming back, about the Ageless Wisdom Teachings even. It takes this ideal that the religious groups have about peace, about God even, about the Christ, and it brings it down into the real world, into real time. It kind of like puts the feet on the ground. And the ideal of manifested love on this planet, most people would have no sense of even how to get there. But if you look at what Maitreya says, and this is, again, the most important thing that any one of us can take from this information. It's not the teacher coming back. It's not the masters coming back. It's not anything like that. It's not the fact that there's life on other planets, and those planets are rather close to our planet, and they come and help us and visit us all the time and show themselves all the time. That's not the most important thing, actually. The most important thing that any one of us can take from this information is the fact that peace is the most important thing that we need to create on this planet. And then the only way to do that, historically, it's been proven, Ken, is to start with the principle of sharing, as Maitreya says. Now, when he says, without sharing there could be no justice, without justice there could be no peace, and without peace there could be no future, that future is not a future more of the same. It's a future far different from that. It's a future where love is starting to manifest, will manifest, and will eventually be manifested perfectly on this planet. However that looks for you. Because even for me, I have no concept of really what that means. Right? I have an idea, but I don't really have a clear vision of what true manifested love on this planet would look like. But it's got to start somewhere. And it's going to start with goodwill amongst nations. And that's what was created with the Marshall Plan. So hopefully you'll look at it. Now, where each and every one of us can look at what we can do individually to help bring about the problem is, I think, to get out of the idea that we can do something about it ourselves, by ourselves, right? So it's not like any one of us could fly to Moscow, go to the Kremlin, and convince Putin to take his armies out of Ukraine, for instance, right? I mean, he's not going to listen to us any more than our own local representative in Congress here in the United States, for instance, will listen to us for any kind of change. They're not going to listen to us either way, right? So what's going to be the change? Well, we're already starting to see it. Groups coming together more and more and more and more for change, being galvanized about change for some reason. They might not have the agreement of how, but they know that coming together creates a power that one person doesn't have. That's, I think, where when I talk about investigating this information for yourself, that's what I'm hoping that each and every one of us do, is look at what we can do together when the time comes for, let's say, for a group mobilizing for action, that you'll take the action and do something about it, and not just go, well, I'll just let them do it. Or, when the time comes when Maitreya is presenting his solutions to our problems, starting with the principle of sharing, that you'll have enough background information about this to go, yeah, I think there could be some truth to that. Or even more importantly, peace is the most important thing that we could look at, not creating a future where the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor, but peace, true peace, is the most important thing that we need to do. So the time is coming, and the time has come, where we need to, each and every one of us, look at how we can manifest peace globally. And I guess the question would be, would it start individually or start internationally or nationally? Well, I do think that based on what Maitreya is saying, it's going to have to start actually from the top down, believe it or not from the bottom up, but also from the bottom up, because the people are going to have to mass some kind of voice to get it to change. So I guess it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, really, if you look at it. Maybe it happens simultaneously. But peace and manifested love will really only come when nations learn to share, and not so much individually. And then more and more of us will start to, okay, yes, I see the good in that, and we'll do it. So for those people, again, I've talked about it before, but for those people, again, who are convinced that Maitreya is the worst of humanity, that he is the son of perdition, the Antichrist, whatever you want to call it, and that he will come and declare that he and he alone can bring about peace, there is no truth to it. He's only going to come and say, we have it within us to do it. And the only way to do it is to share. He's a teacher. That's it. He's not a religious leader. He's just a teacher. He's a friend. He's a brother. That's it. You don't even have to believe what I believe him to be. In fact, he will probably tell even people such as myself who believe he's the Christ. Well, wait, if I'm the Christ for the Christians or whatever, then what about the Imam Mahdi for the Muslims? What about the people who don't have religious beliefs? What about them? Because I'm just a teacher. But it's the teaching that's important, right? And the teaching of what he's saying, there's truth to it. There's factual historical evidence that sharing will bring about justice, will bring about peace. So hopefully that will add to the discussion, and hopefully it will help those who want to know more about this information to start to investigate it and look at it from his priorities more than the spiritual, religious side of what people want to make this information to be about. Now, for those who have listened this far, perhaps this could be your daily dose of hopium based on what we're seeing in the world today on a local level, national level, and international level. But this is an article that Benjamin Crime's master wrote entitled The Path of Love and Peace. How apropos. We were just talking about the manifestation of love. So what does a master, one of the senior members of the spiritual hierarchy on this planet, say about the path of love and peace? I want to know. And hopefully you do too. Fortunately for man, he is never left without help when it is needed. However difficult the circumstances, however great and grave the dangers which he faces, of one thing he can be sure: he will never be abandoned by his elder brothers. Time after time in men's long history, when all seemed lost and the future of man perilously unsure, our succor has been forthcoming, and the forward path of men restored once more. So it is today at this tumultuous time when men stand in a maelstrom of warring forces, unsure of the next step, and all but overwhelmed by the enormity of the task ahead. Emerging from our ancient retreats, we redirect our thoughts and steps to aid our struggling brothers, to show by example that all is not lost, that another and better way exists for men to organize their lives, that unity and happiness come from justice and freedom, that sharing is the natural action of unity, and the simple answer to all men's woes. Men must desire the gift of wisdom. We have to give. The great law does not allow its imposition. Thus do men require to look clearly at the dangers which beset them, and so make their decision and choice. That men need guidance is beyond dispute, though many would deny that this is so or possible to find. And this guidance will Maitreya himself offer to men for their consideration and wise counsel. Responding, men must see themselves as one. The old barriers to freedom and justice must be discarded. All must share in the earth's bounty. All must learn the language of trust. Planet Earth, our home, must be nursed back to health, its air, soil, and waters purified, made safe again for man. These are the urgent requirements for the stabilization of the planet and the health of its inhabitants. Once adopted, there will be no return to the disorder of the past. Man will part company with poverty and war, exploitation and cruelty, corruption and injustice. Men will emulate their elder brothers and walk the path of love and peace. See this time as the time of decision. All rests on man's response to Maitreya's counsel. We, your elder brothers, are neither anxious nor complacent. We know the enormous task that faces both Maitreya and men. We also know how to read the signs of life and are not afraid. Be you who read this not afraid, but spread abroad the fact that the restoration of earth is at hand, that the iniquities of the past are fading, and with them the old ways of governance. A new guidance is here to show the way for men, an ancient but ever new guidance to take men to the mountain top. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.